Hello, my name is David Nichols, and this is my video submission for the Learning Strategy Project for Psych 111. And so I have my phone pulled up right here with the questions I've selected to answer. I'll just be going through those one at a time, talking through what I learned and just kind of some of the prereqs related to this project. So for the first section, it asks, how would you describe your learning style academically? And my academic learning style is definitely a learn by practice style. I usually get most out of doing homework assignments and jumping ahead whenever it comes to those sorts of classes, because I found for myself that when I go into lecture, I get a little bit out of it, but I usually get most out of a lecture if I've already attempted to do similar type problems or assignments. And I'd say for me, the thing that was detracting from my quality of learning, which is the next question I chose to ask, was really not being able to follow my steps that I've done on homeworks in the past. A lot of the times that I have whenever it comes to these type of assignments, normally for school, I'll do an assignment, but then I won't necessarily take thorough notes on my steps. And if I go back to follow it, whether it's studying for an exam or trying to do a similar problem, sometimes it's hard to follow. And so the reason I think that that weakness was problematic is because for me, learning is more than just what happens in the immediate moment when I'm practicing on assignments. I need to be able to return to my notes so that I can remember what I did, processes, so that I can repeat that for future assignments or for future tasks related to my field of study. So the problem I chose to address was taking detailed steps and making sure that I write out what those detailed steps are. And the intervention that I gave was I was going to write out step by step what I do for my homework problems. And the way that I was going to do that was specifically for my electrical engineering classes. I had in particular two labs for one of my digital systems classes and two homework assignments for my power electronics class that I wanted to try this on that were more difficult than the assignments I'd had throughout the semester. The way that I tracked it is just a simple yes, no. Could I flip back in my notebook, see if I did this checklist and this detailed step for each of these assignments? And so for myself, how did the intervention go? I actually saw that it was really, really good. I remember particularly there was one homework assignment for my power electronics class that most students just submitted random answers because it was a by participation style homework assignment. But I was the only student that I know of that really got all the steps and was able to get the right answers working through it because I took that time to go through step by step and worked through that homework assignment a lot. And my experience for how did it go compared to my plan, it went about as I expected. At this point in a lot of my electrical engineering classes, usually at this point in the semester, the assignments are pretty tough. And so I knew it was going to take a lot of time to do those homework assignments. And I did see the fruits that I wanted. And was it effective? I'd say absolutely, because I've been able to go back, look at the notes from those assignments, and review over them over and over again. And I feel like I have a greater understanding of what was a culmination of a lot of different complicated subjects all culminating into one. And so for comparing the learning across context, I chose prompt one, prompt five, and prompt six. So for the first one, it says if you use the same strategy in both contexts, both academic and spiritual, it said, how did the same strategy affect your understanding of that strategy in both? And I said that I feel like my learning strategy is best in a problem-solving scenario. A lot of gospel learning isn't really question answer focused, it's a continual process. And so I feel like the steps I took worked much better in a problem-solving school scenario than a spiritual setting. Did I have to adjust the strategy? Not really. I was able to do the same thing for both. And how did it affect my learning? I feel like my learning was definitely exponentially improved in my academic endeavors, but on the spiritual, I would say that it didn't prove very fruitful. And so it probably would not be the same if I were to do that again. And then my experience at BYU, how has it contributed to my lifelong learning and desire to learn? I would say that BYU's honestly been phenomenal at that. I feel like it does a very good job at involving a spiritual context and the importance of education. And that it's my experience here at BYU over the past 3.5 years has really allowed me to have that desire to continue to learn and to improve. And I would say that some of the things that my professors have done to incorporate research or learning environments to motivate me to be a lifelong learner are definitely in my econ classes, most of the labs that I've had. it's an application to the things that we've learned. And usually those applications are very fascinating. And I get a lot out of taking the time to do those projects. And then for prompt six, it asks me to talk about a learning experience I've had that was very effective in outside of school, and then a least effective school experience. So my Book of Mormon class I took my freshman year is probably my least effective because my professor was very much focused on just getting through the first half of the Book of Mormon, and there's a lot of good and dense material to talk through. But instead of focusing on those little things, I felt like we were just kind of going through the motions, which was really hard for me. However, one of the best experiences I had on the other end was in my high school. I shot rifle and shotgun competitively, but when I started shooting shotgun, I was really bad. And so I remember we were on the line practicing, and I remember my high school shooting coach, who I really don't remember his name, didn't know his name that much at the time. I remember him pausing the entire line that was shooting for shotgun, pulling everyone else off the line, and just focused on me one on one, teaching me how to shoot, teaching me what I needed to know, and just working with me as an individual and showing me what I needed to do. And I noticed that through that, I was able to go from a very, very bad, quite frankly, shotgun shooting shooter to being very, very good because of the time he took to explain things to me individually and teach me what I needed to do in order to be successful as a competitive rifle and shotgun shooter. And I'll always be grateful for that, teaching the process one step at a time and being able to go back and follow through on that in the future. So that's my report.